Alright guys, so I'm going to show you how to use the physics gun here in UDK and create a physics object and be able to place it in the world and interact with it. Now, it used to be by default you would have your physics gun connected with your default, but that doesn't always happen here, especially if you set your world properties. In this case, we'll go to View, World Properties, and if you set this to Team, Deathmatch, and UDK Game, you can lose some of your physics gun aspects, like you won't be able to roll through your mouse and won't be able to select it in the newest UDK. So what you can do is set your default game under game type to UDK Game, and game type for PIE, you want to set this guy to UT Game, so you won't be doing Deathmatch in this particular case. So this is if you want a basic interaction game. This is if you don't want to use any particular guns, or at least want the option to get your physics gun set up. You'll just have like one gun, and this works pretty well. Alright, so once you have that set up, you close that out. Now to pull up any object can become a physics object. So I can choose, wall if I wanted. Let me scroll down, grab just a little wall, and you can see I have a couple of pieces of wall right there. Not really meant to be seen on one side, so you can see the texture looks kind of crappy. So let's go to another one here. Let's find something here. Yep, we can do this guy. He's kind of a bunker wall. So when we pull him in, he's probably going to be huge. There we go. It's really big. But you'll notice when you pull items in, and you saw me talk about this in class when it came to a static mesh, you'll pull them in and UDK won't always refresh and know what you're talking about. So when you right click, you won't be able to convert that to a physics object. So what you can do is select him again, hit delete, and select him in a browser, and then right click, and you should be able to now make him a rigid body. Now before they had the options for a physics actor, PhysX, and you could use that, and you didn't always see the rigid body prominent within the menu. The PhysX development tool, we might be able to get into it next week, but that's more, they've locked it down at NVIDIA, and that gives your item a lot more robust movement and control for when it breaks and it damages. You can have dust fly off, particles, and so forth. I'll see if they will send me an email for approval this next week. But right now, the default, what we can use, which works just fine, is the rigid body. So we're going to go and click on rigid body. And again, you have to be able to, because UDK has a little bit of a refresh issue, I usually drag it in, delete it, select it in the menu, and it comes up. Sometimes you can get lucky, select in the menu, and this will come up. So we'll just go to our UT, rigid body. You'll notice he will turn green. But I'm going to scale him down a bit because he's a bit big, and the bigger it is, the harder it is to interact. Oh, my bad. Harder it is to interact with this particular object. Sorry, with Camtasia is a little bit of a flickering refresh issue. We'll just keep it right about there. Got it going on. And when you make him a physics object, he will have automatic collisions that come up. If you double click on this guy, you'll see he says oops, my bad. UTK actor. So you can mess with it and make it have health to damage it, to destroy it. We have UK actor here. Damage applies on impulse. You want to be able to keep that guy here. Wake on level start. Now a lot of these you can hook up with Kismet. We're not going to get too much into this just yet. But I wanted to show you some of this cool stuff they have for like dynamic static components. You can see that we have a static mesh component down here. We can control some of your visuals for it. But you also can go to physics here, and you allow fluids to actually affect your item, which is kind of cool. Now, anytime you can't find something for a particular actor, you can type it in. You say, hey, I want to find out, maybe, let's see here, not weight. We can say, damage if you want. So anything that has to do with damage, you got to be able to spell it correctly, will show up. See, there you go, which is kind of cool. It allows you to search particular topics if that's what you need. And then as you delete it, it'll go back to its default. I just want to make sure I brought that up. So we have here, we have collision. You can see we have a collision component set ready to go. Block rigid body, you want to make sure that's on. Block all, you see is on by default. Now you want collide complex. This ignores simple collision static meshes and a collide per poly. Now this can be taxing. If you turn this on, and if you have a lot of them, just be aware that it can bog things down. It takes up a lot of real estate and memory. We also have physics rigid body out of world check, and you'll see that UDK is nice enough to tell you what it does. And what this does, it's zero extent. Trace each frame from the old to new location with physics rigid body. If it hits the world, so this is pretty complex, and if it falls off the world, it allows you to still have that that ability to keep your physics and so forth. So physics rigid body out of world check, and path colliding, you want to keep that on. If anything's on a path, if any item will recognize it and run into it and so forth, and it will react. So let's turn on collide complex. He's just one guy, so we should be able to take care of that guy. And let me see here, scroll down. It says consider all static mesh components for streaming. This can, again, if you want things to be a little bit more complex, you can turn this on. This allows you to calculate your texture here on this particular object. And you'll see it's nice enough to tell you what it does. It says consider all static components for streaming. It says texture streaming code. Iterates overall static mesh components. Couldn't pronounce that for a second. Found out this actor would build texture streaming information. So it allows you to optimize some things, which are kind of nice. And I just wanted to go over that real quick. Let me see if there's anything else I want to show you. Then we have the tag. You can change the name. That name can be called upon when you're doing your scripting. And I think that's about it here. And yeah, so pretty cool. So this physical actor here, again, you can play with it. You can get him going, and you can change him a little bit here. We have a little bit of conditions here. We also have velocity here. So as you mess with your velocity, this allows you to kind of change how your object moves. If you shoot it, does it fly into space? So it's kind of like a poor man's way of weighting this down, so making it heavy and so forth. Right. I think that's about it for this guy. I don't think I need to go into anything else. I don't want to get too much into buttonology, but I wanted to be able to break this down to you guys so you can check it out. And again, there's our rigid body, and you can play with some of your details here, but in this case, since he's just a very static object, you want to keep it rigid body so you don't necessarily break or mess up anything. All right, let me go and close him out. So we got him converted. I'm going to go in here and play from here. And again, notice my world properties, I'm going to point this out again, is set to UDK game for game type and type for PIE, UDK game here also. And this allows us to use our physics gun and doesn't necessarily, as you switch through those, you may find that some of your items will not display or show up. But those are the primary for an interactive type of gameplay. Alright, so I'll do, we have a new piece of geometry in here. So we're going to make sure that we rebuild all. Da-da-da. Rebuild all. Come on, supercomputer, I just bought. Let's show off for everybody in YouTube land how amazing you are. Fantastic. You guys get to hear my Sean Connery voice because I'm too tired and I don't want to edit this. Amazing, the green bar graphics. It just UDK is advanced so much. Just kidding. So we go play from here. There we go. So move around. There's our little physics object here in the world. Okay. So what we can do, we can switch to our physics gun. Now you can choose different game types. You can just run into items and they'll fall down, and not too exciting. But our physics gun allows us to pop him in the air. No, I didn't want him to take off. But it allows us to interact with these things, and you can send things flying if you want to. And you just got to be careful here because you can also grab it. I'm grabbing this guy, and I just removed it, and you can place it in different areas if you want. So I'll just let go, and it sets him down. I can grab this piece that fell down earlier, move him around. So this makes it really cool for you to interact in your scene. It also allows you, we can shoot stuff. You can shoot it. You can stack them on top of each other. It's actually pretty cool. You see this guy has a nice little weight to him. He goes flying because he's light. Let me hit escape. So some really cool features which allows you to play with these items. And again, you can mess with the velocity here and you can tweak him out if you want to. Okay, so that's about all I got for you this time. So hopefully this will help you out in messing with your features on your item, messing with collision. You also have the physics you can play with here and notify. And we talked about some of these things, fluid drain, and this is a little bit more advanced for different features that you want on your particular object. And you'll notice some of these items will port through coming from Unreal 3. And for you to use them and activate them, you'll have to script it or make a complex Kismet, which is a little bit outside of the Unreal 3 development, because it's always a little bit backwards when you use the UDK, because you have to go all the way around using their language, which is a hybrid of Java and HTML kind of, and it's not direct C++, so a little bit of fudging in some areas. All right, so hopefully that was a good review rundown for you guys. And again, that's about it.